Testing,
Nope.
testing,
No.
testy. One,
Oh, wow.
two. Already offending everyone. And if that was enough, apparently, if you're to draw schmenzers and backsides, naked backsides, you gotta print those up in Canada. Because as we found out, there's certain printers that won't print beeholes in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of almost all ages, Geeks Worldwide Radio, the Dork Shared Universe, proudly, and I mean proudly, presents to you the greatest. I mean the greatest. I'm not holding back. We are the greatest podcasting team in the world. He is the comic book writer, Nick Friar. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. And together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club, baby. Nicholas, how's it going?
I am, honestly, I'm feeling great because I feel like I learned something today, Joe. And
Yeah.
you've already shared that bit of information with everybody, and you guys all will get way more nitty gritty detail on what Joe just alluded to if you subscribe to one of our audio channels, because that's the only place you can get our Friar Side chats. And we're talking Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, Amazon, Pocket Cast, all the major podcasting platforms. You can find us there. And if nothing else, subscribe there. If you like watching Joe and I on your screen, I totally get it whenever we're doing What's New or a mainline episode. But otherwise, the only way you're going to hear us is in our Friar Side chats, and that's audio only. So make sure you subscribe there. It doesn't cost anything. But it would be nice if you left a 5-star rating and review, or the highest rating review that you can possible if it's higher than 5 stars. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of Backcracker and probably ruin his weekend. As for the Friar Side chats, Joe, we had some what?
Nothing.
Oh,
I'm listening intently.
You dumbass. That's when you were supposed to jump in. We went over this fucking beforehand. What the fuck?
You don't know how to set up anything, Nicholas.
That's not true. No,
you don't know how to set up anything.
A lot of times I'll take shit for you, but I said to you, I was gonna say, as for our Friar Side chats.
Yeah, I might have zoned out for a second.
Yeah.
But
I got cucked, and now you're cucking me again. This is unbelievable. I can't work like this.
Well, I gotta get so as we mentioned last week, Nicholas. Depending on when you're listening to this, if you're listening to it on the day it drops, it's my birthday on New Comic Book Day this week. Happy birthday to Doc! And what a glorious, wonderful, delightful birthday it is, because we recently talked with Jeff McComsey and Felipe Guiña about Little Black Book from AWA Studios, one of our favorite studios that you had called dibs on, you coward. You snaked it from me, but guess what? Karma, baby. I got to read it ahead of time for the interview, and man, oh man, not only was the chat great, but we read issue 1 and we got issue 2 as well. And I got to tell you, Nicholas, that might be the most 2 perfect endings to issues that I have ever read in my life. Absolutely fantastic. I am pleased as punch that I don't have to wait to read this book, and you're going to be glad you don't have to wait to read this book, because it does drop on New Comic Book Day this week. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but Little Black Book, man, again, AWA just doesn't miss. They don't miss.
Yeah, they don't miss, but I keep getting screwed over. And you guys already have that to listen to. If you're watching us now and you want to go and listen to that first, by all means, go check that out on one of our audio channels. But what I'm kind of more frustrated about is I feel like I've taken away my power to complain about when that happens. I swear, I don't think that's ever happened to you where you've called dibs on a book and then we get an interview for it. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's never happened. Well, maybe Red Zone was a close. That was about it.
Maybe. There's 2 reasons for that. 1, I'm just fucking awesome. But 2, you're a hustler, Nicholas. You are a hustler. And so I do have to give you credit for your selflessness, for putting dibs. Selflessness?
Selfless? You're saying selfless. It sounds like you're combining selfless and
I am.
Selfish.
People don't know this. We've been talking for a while. And I haven't had dinner, so my blood sugar's a little low.
Oh no.
But I'm trying to praise you, Nicholas, for being selfless, and
I can't let you be nice. AWA says it really hurts our Q rating.
It does hit our Q rating, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to rectify that. But no, seriously, like one, I am just better than you at picking books. But two, you do hustle and get us some great people to talk to. So for that, I applaud you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate at least I got that out of this. And I mean, on top of that, we also got to talk to Tony Fleece, the writer of Feral, as well as Stray Dogs and Local Man, among others. But we're specifically talking with him about Feral, which you guys heard. I got an early look about that. Of course, gloated, blah, blah, blah. And then I asked Tony, hey, do you want to come on and talk with us about Feral? We ended up getting a look all the way to issue 3. So that Fireside Chat's going to be coming up right on the day of the FOC of Uncanny Valley, which is his new Boom title that's going to be coming out in April. You guys will hear more about that in the Fireside Chat as well. But I'll tell you what, first of all, there's the Doc Rule, the Boom #1. You read it, but also like it's another thing that has a cartoony vibe. And Tony told us a little bit about it, and you can see some stuff from Boom. But basically, it's like this coming of age story where this kid finds out that his grandfather is a cartoon character. Once I heard that, I was like, I don't need to know anything fucking else. I am checking this out because obviously Tony's a very good writer too. Been doing some awesome stuff. But yeah, I had a great time with that chat. We'll be seeing him out at C2E2. But enough about the Fireside Chats. We don't need to tell you more about them. Just go listen to them and you'll have a good time. Right now, Joe, let's get to a little catching up. I know you've been reading a few different things.
Yeah, and there's still a couple of books I want to catch up on. One, it's not on this list here, but I did something, Nicholas, last week that I said I wasn't going to do. And I'm mad. I'm not mad that I did it, but like I said I wasn't going to do it, and then I fucking caved, and I did it solely because the covers were fucking badass. So as we talked about, right, the last run in the Lost Years was not our cup of tea.
Oh,
Right. There were some issues with it. That just it was pacing it. Anyways, I'm not gonna beat that dead horse anymore. But there is a new TMNT Lost Ronin series that dropped last week. And I was like, no, I'm good. I loved the last Ronin, the first book that came out. I'm good with that. But then I saw some of the covers, man. And there's this awesome Michelangelo cover. And I said, fuck it, man. And I grabbed it. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I flipped through it and the art does look fantastic. And it looks like there's there's a lot of action in the issue, which the Lost Years was lacking. That was part of the issue we had. So I'm actually now kind of excited to read this. So hopefully next time we're on here in catching up, I'll have more to say on that. But what I did read to catch up on was Zorro, Man of the Dead, issue 2. I was able to get my hands on a copy of that, and it's just so fucking good, man.
Yeah.
Duke issue 3, again, fucking tremendous. Just I'm loving it, man. I'm all in on the Energon universe right now. Savage Red Sonja, issue 4, the penultimate issue, written by friend of the show Dan Panosian. Nice. And then Mystery of Compliance issue 3. I can't wait to talk about this book, man. It is so good. The political intrigue, the sort of Game of Thrones type chess playing that's going on with the characters, the double crossing and all that stuff. It's been excellent.
And that's an IDW book too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you got a few over there that you've been.
They've been humming lately. I must say.
Yeah. Now the only thing that I did catching up on, because I believe I read Duke before the last time we convened. Yes. I could be wrong. Okay, I did. Okay. Because I did read that. But The Crow, because all the news that was going on with The Crow, I wanted to go back and rewatch it. The Brandon Lee version, and then I like The Crow came out like way before my time, and I actually never read it. I don't know if you had, Joe. But yeah, so I was like, I need to go back and like finally check this thing out. It was like this is a trailblazing comic and so important, and I think for people who love like the darker stories that we get now, I don't think it's always easy to get your hands on it. I do have like a I think it's a 30th anniversary version, maybe a little bit older than that. But I was, I finally got a chance to sit down and just like sift through it, because I'm always worried about like the new stuff that's coming out for us. So sometimes it's harder to go back and look at things from the past. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about it on the show, but it's obviously like it's a classic for a reason. And again, like, so I think the Brandon Lee version, like now having seen it and read it, like obviously that respected the source material. I know there's concerns with Bill Skarsgård's like the character design, and I think that's warranted. Like it's just
It's
I
fucking
remember
terrible.
I remember someone saying like this is like the guy, this is the kind of guy that the Crow would beat up. Like, yeah, honestly. So
Yeah.
it's a little like it's too bad. I hope the story ends up working out and they don't go too far from the source material, but I don't know.
Something tells me it's gonna be fucking terrible. It looks like they've really fucking missed the mark,
It's
but
unfortunate.
whatever.
Yeah. It's one of those
Who
things.
knows? We could be very surprised.
We could be, yeah. It's one of those stories too that's just like it's like with Dune where it like sets it's a trailblazer and like kind of started things for other titles, and took swings where others maybe hadn't necessarily and got dark. In a plot sense, it's like it's not the like craziest, most dynamic thing ever. I'm not saying Dune's not, but where like Star Wars inspired Dune, Thrones inspired Dune, where it's like, okay, like you've been around a lot longer than these things, but these things were exposed to people on screens sooner, as much as you had, the Dune, the '80s version. So that's the only other thing I'd say is an obstacle with redoing The Crow, but still, I mean, people love it.
Yeah. So this is one of the things I'll say. So like, we do have a tendency to like, thumb our noses at, things that, especially when like The Crow is such a, a nostalgic thing, right?
Mhm.
Like people have an attachment to it, right? It's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a cult classic, right?
Mm.
And so like, there does to be a tendency where any deviation from that and people just go, fucking poo-poo it.
Right.
And then, but there's that a chance that you could be pleasantly surprised,
100%.
right? But in this case, right, like we've seen the stills and it's not fucking good, right? Like there's a chance that the story could be really good, but like the character design, now I granted you want to change things up a little bit, but like there's changing things up and trying to distinguish itself. And
Yeah.
then there's like, oh, we're giving Sonic the Hedgehog weird fucking teeth.
It's yeah,
Right?
I think that's honestly kind of a fair comp, unfortunately. That's what it feels like. The story could be good, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So like there's an eyeball test. It's called the eyeball test for a reason. And initial reactions are like, oh, that doesn't fucking look good.
Yeah,
Um
it's unfortunate. Well, you know what they could do? They could reshoot it with Tim Robinson being this version of the character, and it would work out for everything. Did you ever see that with the Chippendale Rescue Rangers where he's Ugly Sonic?
it was fucking great.
Oh, so good. It was amazing. Whoever thought of that, like give him all the money, please. It was a brilliant idea.
Oh, we need him as Ugly Sonic on his zip line.
Uh, yeah, that would be good. Someday we need to see. We need honestly just create the character for the universe. Make an ugly Sonic, like his evil twin or something like that.
I tell you
Bizarro
what,
Sonic.
I'll watch an Ugly Sonic movie if it's voiced by Tim Robinson.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Make it
Yep.
R-rated, like just go bananas with it, that actually be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it would be. What's also a lot of fun is going through the books that come out this week, Joe, because we got a couple doozies mixed in here for your birthday. Happy early birthday. I mean, I'm going to text you on your actual birthday, but
42, Nicholas.
oh, you don't look 42.
Thank you.
You look 45. So let's go.
Walk into that one.
But let's get to we got quite a bit from Marvel this week. Why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, I gotta say, usually when we get the review copies and just kind of download them, it's usually I've got one, maybe two, handful of books from Marvel this week that we're both reading. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 45, Wolverine issue 45, the Pedro issue, if you will, the Immortal Thor issue 8, Darth Vader issue 44, Ultimate Black Panther issue 2. Fall of the House of X issue 3. I didn't get a chance to read this one yet, but definitely can't wait to get my hands on that one. Dead X-Men issue 3, which I believe you're reading. Carnage issue 5. Spider-Gwen Smash issue 4. Mace Windu issue 2. What If Venom issue 2. Alien Black, White, and Blood issue 2. Power Back Into the Storm issue 3. The Black Widow and Hawkeye issue 1. You have this in red. I'm assuming you read it. Are you calling dibs?
I read it. I'm not going to call dibs on
Okay.
it. I did enjoy it. I thought it was a solid
Okay.
first issue. This is Stephanie Phillips, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, this is why I had to check it out. So it was a fun
Okay.
time. Like it was a good start. And
Because I want to read it. But if you call dibs, I got to respect dibs.
Yeah.
Unless we get Stephanie Phillips on the show, which would be
Yeah.
awesome.
You know what? You should just let me call dibs all the time because now we're having a pretty high success rate for when I call dibs on.
All right, so yeah, okay, call dibs on a Lemire book, please. All right.
I did it with Tynan. Who knows?
I know. Okay, Romo. But with that, there's two books in particular we want to talk about. I'm going to kick us off because
Ooh.
I've been enjoying the hell out of this series, and that's Avengers Twilight issue 4. Chip is fucking flying through this series right now.
Ooh.
And each issue just gets better and better. When I talked about issue 3, I talked about, one of the main characters in this story is Tony Stark's son, James, who's a real piece of shit, slick back hair. But we also get a pretty big reveal at the end of that issue regarding Jarvis. In this issue, also we see Thor sort of make his debut in this particular universe, and so this issue really gives you a lot of background, information. Now we know what the real fucking stakes are, and again, this is another sort of Game of Thrones type thing where I feel like Jarvis and James Stark are sort of like the Lannisters, right? And they've just sort of been slowly, playing their chess pieces, and then bang, they make their big move. And holy smokes, I just love Chip's writing so much. And I'm not like saying that in a silly way, especially when I talk about my Chip, but like he gets these characters, man. He and the way he's writing Old Man Cap, and Thor and Old Man Luke Cage, if you will, and sort of giving us this new Hawkeye. This has been just an absolutely fascinating, Avengers story to read. That's not your typical Avengers story, where you're used to like seeing the Avengers and they're always sort of out ahead, right? And they're really sort of infallible. And that's not the case here. And we're seeing them playing catch up, playing from behind. You got Thor sort of apologizing, for being a coward in the long, absence that he's had since H Day, which is the event where a lot of the superheroes, died and sort of went away. So if you haven't been reading it, there's 100% you can go to your local comic book shop and get caught up on this. Because this is something you should read, especially if you're an Avengers fan, if you're a Marvel fan, if that's like your bread and butter. This is an original take, with these characters in this universe. It's just I can't rave about enough.
So this all sounds great, but I am fixated on one detail, and I had to look this up as you were going through that. James Stark, excuse me. That's the first time we've ever seen this character, as far as I can tell.
Yep.
I'm just curious. So you said he's a real piece of shit. Do you think there's an off chance that Chip named him James for another creator?
Oh, in Chicago, we're gonna have to ask. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it would have made more sense if he named him Ryan. Right? We'll have to ask him that too if that ever crossed his mind. But is the son of Tony Stark and the Wasp.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, no, I misunderstood. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Okay, cool. So we got that, and then this is a big week for Marvel. On top of what Joe was talking about with the Avengers, and obviously Wolverine continues, which we've talked about a ton. We're getting Black Widow and Hawkeye team up, which was fun. But then for me, the first thing that I needed to read from Marvel this week was Ghost Rider Final Vengeance issue 1. Benjamin Percy, of course, friend of the show. Danny Kim is the artist. And as we've mentioned previously, has been teased previously, it appears Johnny Blaze's run as Ghost Rider is coming to an end. We've obviously seen other people take on the mantle of Ghost Rider. He's far from the first person to in the history of Marvel to take on the character, as much as he may be the first one that we saw take it on. We've had our suspicions, Joe and I, about who is going to take on the mantle next. And obviously this is a story. This isn't just like a quick one shot where, we know exactly what's going to happen and this is it. And this answers that question. But it seems either way that like finding the next person to take on the Spirit of Vengeance is not an easy thing for the Spirit of Vengeance to figure out by himself. And what I love about this, on top of just the crazy breakneck pacing of this story, which has been, the calling card of Ghost Rider in a lot of ways under Benjamin Percy's watch, the stories just move so fast and it's perfect for the character. I love that we get narration from Zarathos, the Spirit of Vengeance. I thought that was really cool touch. I didn't not something at all that I expected when I was reading this. You get him bouncing around like crazy, and we see the character like pass through multiple individuals, and some are just like for a panel, some are for like we get a little story in there, which is great. There's one in particular that you and I both really enjoyed. It's the first one that like where a character gets fleshed out and experiences the Spirit of Vengeance, and it was like, this is somebody who absolutely fucking needs that help.
Granny was a real piece of shit. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Oh God, what a jerk. But I really enjoyed the start of this, and the ending. Like, was not expecting the ending at all. Doesn't necessarily, I don't know that it means like that's where things stay, but honestly, if it did, I wouldn't hate it, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, without spoiling, if that's the case, I'll be really intrigued because you want to talk about something that came out of left field. No one
Nope.
outside of Ben would have seen that coming, and I would love to explore that and to learn more about that character. If, however, as he's sort of going through this, the Spirit of Vengeance continues to bounce, I think that's going to be fun and fascinating as hell.
Agreed.
And then maybe like, because you can tell, I think there's so much latitude to sort of like be with this character for a little, and then just boom, 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 and then like have the series or have this arc, whatever, end on the final one, and then whoever, if Ben's continuing Ghost Rider somewhere, then take it from there. Like, I think that would be a fascinating way to do it too. Either way, so awesome. Like, this was fun as hell to read. I loved again the narration, because it's not something you typically get, right? Because you just think of the Spirit of Vengeance. It's just that a spirit, it doesn't have its own conscience or anything like that. So hell of a first issue.
Yeah, awesome start. Let's move over to DC. We got Action Comics 1063, Batman and Robin issue 7, which you are on, Green Lantern issue 9, Wesley Dodds, The Sandman issue 6, Red Hood, The Hill issue 2. Again, it took a while. Like, we weren't seeing as much of Red Hood as I wanted. Like, we got there, but again, like by the end, it's like it's very. It's not doing it for me.
DC has a Red Hood problem.
It's just frustrating, man.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't feel like the character's in it, like not in a spot where he's got the guns back in his hands, but like he's not at the center of it. Which
there's no reason why Red Hood shouldn't be at the top of the pillar of DC properties right now.
100%. I don't understand it. It's disappointing, but I will again. I love Red Hood, so I want to try and consume as much of his stuff as I can. So I'll probably give the third one a look. I actually picked up. I was visiting family over the weekend, and I actually picked up. I guess there's been Red Hood webtoons. And they did a collected edition of it, and I think it's Red Hood the Outlaws. So it's like not and the Outlaws, but we're still dealing with Artemis and Bizarro. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, I'll check this out. I don't know. I wasn't familiar with the creators. The art style felt like it skewed a little bit younger, but I was still like, you know what? I'll give it a try because I like Artemis a lot, and Bizarro's a good.
Because that's what we want. We want Red Hood to appeal to children.
Well, yeah, I mean, apparently. But anyways, I'll circle back on that at some point once I give it a look. But Outsiders issue 5, Speed Force issue 5, Fables 162, Sinister Sons issue 2, Looney Tunes 277, Suicide Squad Dream Team issue 1, and then Batman Dylan Dog issue 1.
From Skybound, we have Transformers issue 6, which I can't wait to get my hands on. Yeah. And then from AWA, Nicholas.
Yep.
The book that I have been dying to read. Thankfully, I got to read because of our recent chat with Jeff McComsey and Felipe Quina, which, if you listen to the interview, I pretty much nailed the pronunciation on that. I was really damn close, but they were awesome to have on, and I love chatting with them. But as I said in the opener, AWA just has not missed. It's been a really long time. And what I love about the way Jeff writes is that there's always a lot of levity in his stories, because shit can get dark. It can get dark at the twist of a hat, and the book starts off light, even though it kind of starts off with the death of a character you haven't met yet, but like it was really funny. They're talking about baby names and all that, and then the way this the way this issue ends, you're just like we talked about in the chat. It's just a series of panels that Felipe drew, and it just kind of makes you go, "Holy fucking shit!"
Yeah,
Right,
it was really good.
and that's what makes reading comics so great, and that's what I think AWA just continues to nail. They tell these darker stories, these grittier stories, that are captivating, that suck you in, and that always leave you wanting more. And we've had the benefit of reading the second issue, right? So we talk about this all the time, right? The first issue, right? Its job is to pull you in, sink its hooks into you, and to propel you into wanting to read the next issue. And so with the sort of the oh shit moment that the first issue ends with, you get an even bigger one at the end of the second issue, which
Crazy.
absolutely blew my fucking mind. And Jeff said it just gets ramped up even more and more with the last few issues. So AWA, if you're listening to this on the way to your local comic book shop, make sure you fucking grab this book. Put it on your pull list. You should just tell your local comic book shop, just say, hey, any AWA book that comes out, just automatically, as soon as you see an FOC for it, put it on my pull list, because they're just not fucking missing right now.
Yeah,
and this is a perfect example of it.
Little Black Book is a great example of that. I'm, it's weird when we call dibs. It's like we're trying to snipe it from one another, or and more so protect ourselves from not having to wait on certain books. But at the same time, like I'm also glad that you get to go and read this because it's awesome. I mean, and again, I only talked about the first issue on here a while back, and the second issue, of course, it's we had a little bit before that comes out. But it's also like the ending of that was just like what, like where it was going. It's like I just didn't see it coming.
Nope.
You're not there's. We're telling you we didn't see it coming, and I promise you we can say that till we're blue in the face. But short of telling you what happened, you will not see what is coming at the end of that issue. But the end of the first one was like it was really cool. Like it was like it was fucked up, but it was really cool. Like it was very well done. I really liked it a lot. From Boom, we got House of Slaughter issue 21, which of course Joe's reading. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Return issue 2, which of course I am reading. Loved the first issue. Loved the second one as well. It's there's we kind of know what's happened with the character Tommy Oliver already in the story. And then but like we kind of know like the end result, and then we kind of learn like the how and the why and what went on there. And anytime you're getting into that mix with him, for me personally, it gets a little like emotional just because of what happened to the guy who made Tommy what he is, Jason David Frank. And then on top of that, you have Amy Jo Johnson writing the story. Like I really enjoyed this issue, and I can't wait for the next one, especially with the way that this ended and the twist. You get a twist. From the first issue, like you see this one thing happens in the first issue, and then you get this wild twist, and then you get it. So I very much enjoyed it. If you're a Power Rangers fan, I highly recommend you checking this out. Even if you haven't read any of the Power Rangers stuff, from Kyle Higgins, Ryan Parrott, Melissa Flores, Matt Groom, like they all do a great job. But even if you haven't read those, A, go read those, but then B, you don't have to read those to check this one out. Then we got.
Have you cooled down since Amy Jo Johnson quote tweeted you?
No.
Do you have to see a doctor about
wow, geez, let's keep it clean. She's gonna be a C2E2, all right, dude. Yeah. She sees these videos, so try and
shit has got to shoot,
yeah. Okay. Anyways, but Zaz also
someone's blushing.
Also from Boom, we have Zawa, the Belly of the Beast, issue 5. I'm going to do the rest of the show. My voice is cracking like crazy, more than usual. Fire
all over again.
The Fall Guys, issue 6. Abbott, 1979, issue 5. And then I Hate Skull Crusher, issue 1. What do we got from Dark Horse?
So from Dark Horse, we have Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures issue 4. We have James Tynan's Blue Book 1947 issue 2. We have The Assassin's Apprentice 2 issue 4. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando: Rise of Sludge God issue 1. And then we have a number 1, Nicholas, from Tom King. So we all know how I feel about Tom King.
I don't know that people do.
If it's Batman, but outside of that, Tom King, we talked, I've talked about the Vision, and
Yeah.
I loved Human Target, right?
Yep.
So like, I'm not here to knock Tom King. I didn't like his Batman run. That's neither here nor there. But we have Helen of Windhorn, issue 1, Nicholas. You read it. Tell the people all about it.
Before I go any further, dibs. Not sorry about it. So this is the same creative team that put together Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which I did talk about on the show previously. I can't remember exactly which mainline episode that was, but that's also the story that's going to be like the basis of integrating Wonder Girl into or Supergirl into Gunn's whole DC plans. So that's Tom King, Bilquis Evely, Mateus Lopes, and Clayton Cowles on art, colors, and letter on those last 3. So the way this is pitched is Conan the Barbarian meets Wizard of Oz, which I didn't look at beforehand. I just saw this was the creative team that did Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. All right, I'm gonna check this out. Period. That's all I did. If you like that story, you should check out Helen of Windhorn issue 1. Plain and simple. I don't think you need to hear any more than that. You'll understand as you start reading it. Very similar presentation, similar approach. Which at first I was like, oh, that's so you're going to do that, okay? And then you have this character Helen who's like a bit of a mess, and it's like, okay, interesting, because this is kind of what you did with Supergirl in a different way. And then you have Miss Appleton, who is her governess. So a different relationship, but still like her companion in this story. She is the narrator. I really like that character, her narration specifically, because she's this very prim and proper woman, and she's trying to explain the story of dealing with this like out of control. Like, I don't know if she's like late teens or if she's like 20s. Like I can't tell with like wait, she's probably like 24 or something like that. But I just can't tell with Evely's art style. But I really appreciate the way she's like picking apart the character, talking about it in the future and everything. So I'm like, I'm getting sucked in by the art, by the colors. It's really drawing me in. I'm getting to know this character. Okay. And they kind of like plant this seed of like, there's something weird that's happening here, but you're just so sucked in on like them, like with dealing with Helen for Miss Appleton. And then you get this crazy development, and it kind of steps into like this, like, where did this come from? I didn't know we were going to get anything like necessarily out of this world in this story. That could mean a lot of different things. I don't want to say more than that because I don't think you guys need more than that. You'll know when you get there. But I really enjoyed this, and I'm all in on the second issue. And again, dibs on Helen of Windhorn.
What was the description again? Conan the Barbarian meets
the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, see, fuck. I'm pissed I didn't go ahead. Well, you would have called dibs anyways. Wouldn't be the first time we both read the first issue and someone's called dibs.
This is true. I would have given you some room. I mean, I wasn't. I waited. I didn't call dibs until you told me you hadn't read it. And once you said that you hadn't, I was like, no, I'll take it.
I mean, that happened with Seven Secrets. We both read the first issue. You called dibs, and man, did I have to wait on that one. But like, yeah. So like, like I said,
a bad friend.
Well, maybe we can get Tom Taylor on.
Oh yeah, nice.
But yeah, no, this does sound fantastic, and the art style, if I recall from Supergirl, it's got a very, very cool aesthetic to it. I do enjoy that art style, so this should be great, and I can't wait for you to talk about it on the show. You mentioned IDW earlier, so this week they've got TMNT issue 149, Dark Spaces Dungeon issue 4. I have to get caught up and read the third issue. First two issues have been absolutely fantastic. This, of course, is Scott Snyder. We have Star Trek, Sons of Star Trek, issue 1. I'm going to rip through a couple of these real quick, Nicholas, and then maybe you can finish this up with Image. From Vault, we have End After End, issue 9. From Titan, we have Blade Runner 2039, issue 11. Rebel Moon, House of the Blood Axe, issue 3. We should check that out. And just to compare it to the show, just for shits and gigs. From Ablaze, we have The Agent, issue 4. Again, I have to get caught up on issue 3, but I have enjoyed the first 2 issues so far. The Prism, issue 6. From Dynamite, this is a book that just like Transformers, like we don't get advanced copies for this, so I'm dying to get my hands on Thundercats issue 2 from Declan Shalvey. From Mad Cave, we have A Legacy of Violence issue 11 and Skaters issue 4. And then from Scout Comics, we have The Seance Room, Harry's Opus issue 1. And Nicholas, why don't you take us home, baby? With Image, who again had another fucking killer week.
Yeah, so starting things off, we have Fireflies issue 5, which you are reading. I Hate Fairyland issue 12, which I am reading, and I finally got the chance to dig into the second arc. I only talked about the second story, I should say. I talked about the first, I think it was 20 issues on the show not too long ago, and honestly, Joe, like this next part is just as fucking good. Dark Ride issue 11, Knights issue 6, Petrolhead issue 5, which you are reading. Our Bones Dust issue 4, Adventure Man, Ghost Lights issue 2, The Weatherman issue 3, but of course that's the third volume of that. The Cabinet issue 2, Napalm Lullaby issue 1, which you talked about previously. You had an early look at that one, and you do have dibs on that, if I'm not mistaken.
For now, yes.
Okay, and then we got 2 books that we both want to talk about. Where do you want to start?
I'll kick us off because I mentioned this on Twitter earlier, and I've I gotta say, like, I think this was hands down my favorite book of the week, and that's saying something because like Marvel kind of knocked it out of the park, and some of the other books from Image really knocked it out of the park. But that's Ram V's The One Hand issue 2. So we talked about this, when the first issue dropped, and then we have The Six Fingers, which is the companion story with this. So we're getting the same story, but from 2 points of view, right? One from the detective and one from what we think is, right, the serial killer. And the first issue of each of those blew me away. But the second issue really knocked my fucking socks off because the storytelling here is very unique, and it is fucking brilliant the way that they're pulling it off, right? Telling the same story from 2 different points of views, one from the protagonist, one from the antagonist, and you got 2 different writers, right, telling that story. And what I love about it is that, like I read the first issue, right, of each, and then as I'm reading this one, I'm going, oh my God, we're in the middle of the scene from the first issue of The Six Fingers. It's got like one of those like Pulp Fiction way sort of telling, where you've got like all these different characters' points of view, and at some point in time, they're interacting with each other and they don't really know it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Brilliant.
So when that moment happens in this issue, I literally had to stop reading for a second. I went, holy fucking shit. Wow. Right. And there's a moment, but it's just like, I don't want to spoil anything, but like,
of course,
if you've been reading and following along, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's just such a brilliant and unique way of storytelling when it comes to comics, because I think it's done. So you can pull it off so much easier in like television or movies, right? But in comics, right, it's a little difficult. But the fact that they've sort of collaborated and are doing this sort of, one book 1 week, the other book the other week kind of thing, and they're just sort of, over. It was, Nick, this is without a doubt, hands down. I know it's only fucking March, but I know for a fact that not only will I be talking about this book as a possible book of the year for me, when it comes time to do the annual there,
the floppies, yep,
right, the floppies. But there's no doubt in my mind that this is going to get optioned for a movie, and it's going to make one hell of a fucking movie. And I don't even know how it ends. I'm
Yeah.
only 3 issues into this story, but I know it's already set up. Like this could be like a 7 like movie. Like
Oh,
it's just got that vibe to it.
that's awesome. This,
Yeah.
like, I there are plenty of books that we get excited about. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I've ever seen you this excited about a book. Quite honestly.
Blown away, absolutely blown away. And I'm not like, trying to be like, like, oh,
I
I'm
just said it. You're never like this about a book. I mean,
yeah,
genuinely. And we get excited about titles. Don't get me wrong,
yeah.
but you're like when you
It's
say like you had to put it down. Like you only say that when you get scared shitless. That's the only time you ever do that. Honestly.
yeah. I mean, it's easy to like overhype stuff, but I don't think I'm doing that here. I really don't. Like, this
Yeah.
is it. Like, fucking read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless your name's Nick Friar, apparently. I've said it to Tony when we had that like books that I like. You've done that to me multiple times now. Like that the books that I have like FOMO about not reading. This is the One Hand and Six Fingers. Like this is
Well,
just
I'll tell you, Nicholas. One, either be better, or two, get Robbie on the show.
there you go. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's the move. But yeah, so we have this the One Hand and it's the Six Fingers.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. We have those two titles where they're like impacting the medium so much by telling these two stories that the same story through two different views and two different titles. It's amazing. You have that going on, and then also changing the game, of course, is No One. We got issue 8 of that. Kyle Higgins, Brian Buccellato, and Geraldo Borges. And as we're talking right now, we have not had a chance to listen to that podcast. We don't get to listen to that before we do these recordings because that drops the day of New Comic Book Day. So you guys can listen to that right now if you want, if you're listening to us in audio form. But I'm very excited for that, and just having that companion piece to go with the story of No One. Again, I can't say it enough. It's been such a fun experience as a reader. And as for the story, as for issue 8, like things. There's been a lot of crazy developments recently as things, especially things that happen in the podcast that impact the story. Like there's been lives lost, obviously, but some like ones that really were like, this is like these people get like it's like it's not okay, and like other people are starting to get in trouble, or maybe that wasn't their intent, of course. But now in issue 8, I felt like this was the most like out of control, crazy tense issue that we've gotten to this point. And not only because of some of the action that we get, but now the lines that were kind of clear have gotten like there's everything's blurry at this point. Like I don't think there's anything now that you like no one you can maybe Paige, like she's the only one that you can trust maybe.
Yeah, she I wouldn't say she seems to be the only one with the moral compass, but she really is the only one with a real moral compass. But that's to do one of the characters a little bit of injustice. Not that they're
Mhm.
entirely clean and everything, but what I loved about it, again, we talked about this with Little Black Book, right? What happens you don't see coming. I didn't see coming, right?
Nope.
I even went back and reread the last issue, and between this and the podcast, the way they're again, Kyle is sort of you know um, being really innovative with storytelling for this particular story. We're in it, man. Right? We are so involved and heavily invested in this story that I don't think either of us saw this coming. I'm
No.
speaking for myself, and I think I'm speaking for you, right? And it was so well pulled off, and it sort of takes me back to like some good old fashioned crime noir stories when you're talking, especially with detectives. It always seems it's like detective, but it's just that sort of tried and true thing where detectives, they're flawed.
Mhm.
And what we get in this issue was absolutely fantastic. And this would have been, this hands down would have been my book of the week, if not, for the One Hand. But sometimes, Karl Malone and John Stockton just went up against Jordan. It happens, right?
Yep. 100%. But
But so good.
to what you were adding before though, it's just like the detail that's getting put like again it's the podcast that does bring this thing to a whole nother level, but the detail that's gone on into this story, like it just in the comic alone has been really impressive because it's just I feel like I know this whole world And we've gotten so many details and there's so many moving pieces, but at the same time, it's like no, I just took like we took it all in like naturally. It was very easy. So there's so much information in these first 8 issues, but it's all just like, yeah, of course. I've been hanging out with these characters for forever now. When I
Well,
haven't.
so we haven't had the chance to listen to the podcast yet because that's the time we're recording this. It hasn't dropped yet, but it just sort of hit me what the podcast does. The podcast element to
Mm,
the telling of the story makes it feel real,
yes, it does. It
right?
absolutely
It
does.
makes it feel real. Like I feel like these are real characters. Like we're listening to the Serial podcast, right? That's how good of a job that Kyle has done with both writing the story, the production of the podcast, the writing of the script for the podcast, the Patton Oswalt and oh jeepers, what's her name? Oh shit,
Oh, I know it's Julia Page, but wait a minute, it's
what's
Rachel Lee Cook.
Rachel Lee, thank you. Like they do such a great job with delivering the story. It feels real. And again, like we're talking about two books here from Image, the one hand and No One, that are really sort of changing the game a little bit. They're giving us stories in different ways that we're not used to, and I love that. Right? They're
Mhm,
being innovative, which is excellent because at the end of this, what we really want, we want really good storytelling, and I think both of these titles this week from Image are great examples of like I want the movie and I want it now,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Yeah, and I'm gonna call it right now. I don't think the people of Pittsburgh are gonna find out who No One is. I think we as readers might. I don't think the people of Pittsburgh are gonna find out by the end of this year.
wouldn't that be wild?
Yeah, but we might. We
Yeah,
might. There's like, or maybe it's like a little thing that's like,
yeah.
oh, it's this guy, and but we don't get like the definitive like headshot or whatever. But do you? I don't want to know right now. We can talk about it like off air. But do you have a guess for who No One is at this point?
No,
I don't know.
where we are at this point, I think we've been given a massive red herring,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
right? And but who I just don't know. But I honestly think we're gonna get something that's like it's gonna be revealed, and it's gonna be one of those things like fuck, I didn't see that coming. But on the other hand, it's like shit, the clues were all there.
Mm-hmm.
We should have seen it coming, right? It's gonna be one of those things. I know it is, because that's how these sort of these great detective noir pulp stories are told, right?
Mm-hmm.
The answers, the clues, they're all right in front of your fucking face. But it's not until it's all wrapped up that it all comes into focus. And I think that's what we've got here. And I think what we've got in the last two issues, issue 7 and 8, massive red herring.
Mm. I can't. It's just it's so good. But that is it for us this week, Joe. Again, reminder everybody: make sure if you're just catching us on one of our streams right now, go subscribe to one of our audio channels because the only place you're going to find our Friar side chats. We just had one Little Black Book with AWA that's out this week. Both the comic and the interview that we did with the creators over there, and then we got one with Tony Fleece coming out. Stray Dogs, Local Man, Feral, which is his new title that's coming out at the end of March. There's also Uncanny Valley, which the FOC for that is on March 18th. So that's this upcoming Monday after Joe's birthday. Happy birthday again, Joe. Make sure you
Thank you.
subscribe to the show. Maybe leave a 5-star rating and review and a happy birthday for Joe. It would be greatly appreciated. But until next week, Joe, stay sexy.
I will, baby. Just like this Dodgers hat. They signed all the players the Sox should have. That's for you, Ryan.